Robert Holmes Hazard was an American journalist and writer. He was born in 1869 in Missouri, the son of William B. Hazard, superintendent of the St. Louis Insane Asylum, and Gertrude M. Holmes. According to his great-grandson Gary L. Hazard, he was one of the first newspaper correspondents assigned to the White House in 1895, was a personal friend of Theodore Dreiser, and committed suicide in 1912 in Washington, D.C. His only novel was the 1910 The House on Stilts. The story begins with John Smith, hereafter only referred to as Jack, on a steamer with his friend the Detective Larry. They are in pursuit of Varney, a man who stole a fortune from the Planters Savings Bank. But both their boats sink and they find themselves on the island of Gabrielle. Jack finds a pretty girl bent over him and soon finds out it is Norelle, the daughter of the US consul on the island. Taking their abode with the Consul General Pearson, a man who takes great pride in his resemblance to Abraham Lincoln, and talk about getting their hands on Varney. But just then the whole lot have other worries. Joanne of Lazar, the Yellow Queen and chief voodoo priestess of the island, had been stirring up trouble for some time, and any official that tried to stop her was soon enough found insensible to the worries of this world forever. Now she's demanding that the black house servant of the Pearsons give up her son as a sacrifice to the island volcano. Jack and his friends make a bold front of it, but the child is taken from under their noses by the Queen's servant, the Dog Man. Then Jack and Larry, they proceed to mask themselves so they can fit in with the crowd at the voodoo sacrifice by making themselves appear to be black. While at the assembly, they throw some fireworks at the crowd, take the child and run off. The Spanish authorities react in a totally sensible manner, by ordering several hundred voodoo worshippers killed every day until they should kill Joan of Lazar. There follows 2 weeks of their indiscriminate slaughter of the black population of the island. But then the governor is dead and is replaced by a mysterious stranger with a ton of money of whom no one knows anything, and it's Varney. We all know it, but it takes Jack a long time to figure it out, and he does so by accident. You see, he's in love with Norelle, who is toying with him, and he then finds the governor holding her hand and professing his love to her. And only after Jack thinks to creep up unobserved and shoot him through the back does he realize it's Varney. And now he needn't be ashamed of planning cold-blooded murder, apparently. But then we find out, of course, that Joan of Lazar wants to marry Jack, and hating Norelle because he loves her, wants to give Norelle to the Dog Man out of spite. Jack and Larry escape her tender mercies and find themselves at the House on Stilts, a monastery built by an order of sun worshippers centuries ago, standing hundreds of feet in the air on gigantic wooden stilts, whose inhabitants make sure to keep their vow of silence by ripping out their own tongues. They are given asylum within, pursued by Joan of Lazar and her minions, who try to make the monastery topple but are stopped from doing so by having molten copper poured on their backs. Norelle is given asylum there as well, but she still acts terribly to Jack, rebuking him and then being friendly again as if nothing happened, while encouraging the passion of Pietro, the monastery librarian. Only when he tries to take her by force and then tries to kill Jack when he comes to her defense does she stop being so awful. But because Jack had killed a priest even in self-defense, he and all his friends are to be burned alive as human sacrifices, despite them just having saved all the monks' hides the other day. Jack is saved by a man who was his father, and Jack and Larry catch Varney in St. Croix, while threatening and actually planning to commit murder on any of the innocent guards or officials that get in their way, intending cold-blooded murder of people who did nothing wrong just to kidnap and embezzle her. The Yellow Queen then kidnaps Jack and Norelle for about 5 minutes before letting them go and jumping into an exploding volcano. The scenes with the House on Stilts are quite effective, given their weird rituals and their turning the dead into copper statues, and there is a lot of doom-laden atmosphere, but there are too many plots besides. You'd think the Yellow Queen will be the main antagonist, but she is not, and the subplot with Varney is just an intrusion. The tone also massively shifts, at times annoyingly tongue-in-cheek and then serious and funerary.